In this video we're going to look at pivot tables. Pivot tables are one of those tools that will help you in Excel analyze your data very efficiently. Also, a lot of people seem to be scared of using pivot tables. I would say play with it. You cannot break anything, so if you create a pivot table that's come out as nonsense, you can always delete it later on. So let's see. You need data and you need headings in the top row like you see here, because those are the fields that a pivot table will use. So to create a pivot table, you click on the insert and the ribbon and then click on pivot table. Normally it will ask you where do you want to put it, so you can, the default is to put the pivot table on a new sheet. You can also click on the second button and actually put it in a specific location on a specific sheet. So for now, let's just say a new worksheet. Click OK, and this is the layout you will see when you create a new pivot. You will see this image of a pivot table on this side, and on the right hand side you will see the pivot table layout. You will also notice on the top in the ribbon, if I click outside the pivot, there's two menus that disappear, and if I click inside the pivot, you will see two new options appear. Currently I'm in Office 365, so it says pivot table analyze and design. In the older options it say design and pivot table analyze, so in the previous versions of Excel. So let's start by seeing how we actually assemble a pivot table. So on the right hand side you'll see these fields, and those are the headings that you saw in the data. And then you'll see 4 blocks. These are the positions you need the data to show you the report in. So let's suppose in this case we have a region. So if I take this region and drag it to rows, and if you look on the left hand side, you will see now you'll see all the unique regions. If you take the amount excluding tax and put that in the values, and there you'll see the amount for each of these regions excluding tax. So this is a very simple pivot table. These two on top, what you could do is also break it down. So let's say you want to see per region per weekday. So if I take that weekday and put it in the columns, it will split it in the days of the week on top. And the filter on this side, you could, for instance, if I just drag this category in here, you can, one of the 15 categories that we have, you can just select one. So if you can select one there, and you'll see this is the sales for category 1 and 4. And if you want multiple selections, you just click on this tick box here, and now you can say I want to see, for instance, say 1, 2, 3, 4, and there you'll see it. And you can just go up here and click on all again. If you change your mind about any of these selections you've made, you can just simply drag it out of here, or if you click on this drop down, you can see remove field. Now what we have currently again is the region and the sales. If you take, for instance, the weekday and you drag it under the region here, you'll see a pivot table that gives you a breakdown first per region and then per weekday in that region. You can always, in this pivot table field selected in the rows, always swap them around to see if that will give you a better view of the data. So now you'll see you'll get it first per weekday and then per region. So let's just, for our case, swap it back. So there's our report. By default, if you click here on design, this layout is what's known in the report layout as a compact layout. I'll show you the other two now. So outline form will make sure that the second row of data is actually in the second column and that it flows through like you see here. The most useful I find is if you click on design and select tabular form. So this will actually have Excel show like a normal table. If this is table data we want to export, these subtotals might get in the way, so you can always switch them off. Here on top you click on subtotals, you say do not show subtotals, and that will disappear. You can even switch off the grand totals if you want to. And now if I want to copy and paste this data, I could. Also, you'll notice here that the region is not repeated, so you'll see east once and all the days of the week. What you can do is on the right hand side on the region, if you click on this drop down, you'll see there's an option called field settings, and in the field settings under layout there is a repeat item labels. So this is a very common thing to do. If you click on the repeat item labels, it will repeat like that, and now it's data you can easily copy and paste. So in this rows we had regions first and then the weekday, like you can see here, regions and then the weekday. The top level items, you can always, if you see the little minus there, you can always collapse these selections. So if I click on East, head office, what happens now is the data gets automatically collapsed, and now you can see the detail for only the regions. But if you click on any of these pluses again, it will expand. If you get quite a complex pivot table and you have some expanded and some not, like in this case, you can right click here and click on expand and collapse, and you can collapse the entire field, or you can expand the entire field. So that's a quick way of opening up and closing the data. Now in this case I'm going to take out the region, so we have days of the week. If you want to format this data, you can also click on here on the values, click on field settings, and at the bottom here you see number format, and let's pick, let's say currency in this case. Click OK and OK, and there it's formatted. Formatting will also work if you simply select the data and formatting from the home tab under the format here. If you format it this way, sometimes if you add and subtract fields, you will see that the formatting sometimes get lost, but either way will work. The values field and the rows field, just to separate them out, what goes in the value is something, it's normally a number and something you can do a calculation on. In this case, if you remember that we have a category which is simply a number from 1 to 15. If I drag this category in here, you will see now that it adds them up. But for our case that doesn't make sense. We don't want this category added up. So something like that, when there's a number that shouldn't be calculated on, make sure to actually put the field in the rows, and now you'll see Monday and there's a category. So in this case these categories are not something to be added up, it's simply a classification, it just happens to be a number. So make sure if it's numbers you don't want calculations performed on, to put them in the rows field rather than in the values field box. I'll take them out again. Another thing I want to show you is, in this case by default whenever you put something in the values, it will try and do some kind of calculation on it. If I click on value settings, by default now it's doing the sum. You can also in this case maybe say, actually I don't want to get the sum of the sales, I want to count how many different sales happen. So if I click on count and click OK, you'll see now you see different sets of numbers. Also note that there's a heading here that appears that kind of give you a hint as to what is happening in the calculation. If I go back to the field settings, there's quite a few others. You can have average, minimum, maximum. You can look through all these options. Sum and count is the two most obvious ones, and there's back to sum. Another useful thing to do if you click on value field settings is to look on the second tab here where it says show values as, and you can say, for instance, let's say we want a running total. So you want a running total of the amount excluding tax, and you click OK. If you look here in the value field settings, show values as, I said running total in the amount, which is the same thing I wanted to be a running total. The running total should be per weekday, which is our field on the left here. If I click now OK, you'll see what happens. So now rather than give you the individual totals for the different days, you'll see the amount just simply adds to the previous day and the total grows. So that's a very useful alternative to what happens here. Also, if this is a report you're building, this here might not be a useful heading for you, so you might want to say, you can simply type right over that, so you can call it, say in this case, total sales, and press enter. The headings here, you'll see that it's different now, it's called total sales. So it's simple as that to change it. You cannot change this to something that's already got a name in here. If I want to call this region, for instance, press enter, you'll get this error that says the name already exists. An easy workaround around that is where I've typed in region, sometimes just press a space bar and press enter now, because now this name is not a region, it's a region with a space. But for now I'll just take this out. I can't have no name there, so I'll just call it sales again. So that is how you work with this totals. You can quickly, if you click on the design tab while you're in the pivot table here on top, you can very easily here on top do some formatting on the pivot table by selecting any of these options here. You could quickly have a pivot table that's formatted and makes a little bit more sense. Also, there's a few options here where you can put banded rows in here or banded columns, column headers. So column headers just makes it not bold, so it will just show up as any other row, or column or row headers will do it for the left if you had multiple selections. And that's what is in the design tab. In the analyze tab, there's a very useful option here called fields, items and sets, and if you click on that, there's a calculated field. What will happen here is currently we have these fields here, but say for instance I want to see the actual tax amount. I can call this field tax and give it a formula. So the formula for tax amount will be the amount including tax, and in this case it was 20%, so I'll say 1.2, so it's the amount including tax divided by 1.2, and I click OK, and it will actually now create an artificial field that didn't really exist previously, but now you'll see there's a sum of tax and there's your tax. If you need to change this formula, you can always go back up here, click on calculated field, and in this drop down you'll see your existing fields, and there you'll see your formula, and you can simply change it. By double clicking any of these fields, it will just add it to your formula for you, so you don't have to type it out. So that is a calculated field. In a pivot table, wherever you have amounts that's in this values tab, so in this case we have the tax and we have the sales. If I want to see all the amounts that make up this 903 million, you just double click on the amount and it will create an extra sheet with a subset of that data that makes up that 900 million. So that's a quick way. Anytime you want to click on it, just be careful if you click a lot. So if I click on there and I click on there, at the end of the day you're going to have quite a few extra sheets here with a lot of extra data you might not use. You might want to actually just delete these fields or these worksheets as you don't use them. Something that's important is if you have a work or a pivot table like this, be careful not to put data right next to it, because sometimes if you come back to your pivot table and let's say I want to add region now in top, you'll get this error message or this warning that tells you if you click OK here, you're overwriting existing data. If I undo this, your data will be back because I pressed Ctrl Z, but let me just put it back to show you. If I click OK, if I just normally without clicking undo, because say you save the file and tomorrow you're coming back, if I drag this region out now, you'll see your data is gone. So be careful not to lose your data on the side or at the bottom of this. In the later versions of Excel, I can't recall quite which version, I think it's from 2010 and 2013, you get these slicers on top. So what the slicer is just a visual way to make some of these selections. So if I select a slicer, so there's your fields, let's say I click region and weekday and I click OK, I'll get these two slicers. If it's shaded like you currently see it, it means all of these are selected. If I now say I only want to see Monday, the head office, then you'll see that detail. So if you click on any of these, it will select the data according to that. If you click on this button here, this icon, it will clear the filter and will show you everything again. By clicking on this multiple select, I can, if I now click Monday, Tuesday, everything you click, the rest won't change as well. So this way you can say I only want to see, say, Friday, Saturday and Sunday, and I only want to see the head office, or I must just select multi-select head office and north, for instance. So this is just a visual way of quickly doing it. I'm just going to delete these slicers. All I do is select it with the border selected, press delete on my keyboard, and they'll disappear. A more recent slicer that came out in 2013, or Office 2013, is this date timeline. If I click that, you need to have a date field in there for this to work. If I click on date, you'll see there's your date, and it will again become a visual timeline that you can select. Currently it says all months. If you click on the side here, you can say I want to see maybe the years, and there you can see the years. And by selecting the data, you can say, for instance, I want to see from 2006 to 2010, and that will filter the data for you. If you clear there, the data will come back to normal, and you can remove this if you want to again. So that's slicers, which is just a easy visual way to help you select and not select the data. If you have two levels, like I said before here, and let's suppose we say again the weekdays must be repeated. So this is data that you can just use in another report, or you want to send an email or whatever. So this is your data. You can choose, this little minus sign shows that you can collapse and expand this field, but you can choose not to show these, and that's what you see in this Analyze tab. Right on the side there, you can see there's plus minus buttons. When I click on that, it will actually not show that, so you cannot collapse and expand it. You can just get it back by clicking there again. And another useful thing is, if I send this out as a report, if somebody clicks on here, and if you don't maybe want them to change any of these settings that you've done on this side, you can also hide the field list, so that will not show up now. If you want it to show up, you need to click on here, and I'm just right clicking now, and I say show field list inside the pivot table, and it will come back up. So once you have your headings back, or like I did here, you can hide the header. If you click there, you'll see the top heading disappear for the non-value fields, but that doesn't really make sense, so that's not something you would use much. Another thing you might use is the pivot chart. So if you have a set of data like this and you select pivot chart, let's just take the default chart and put it right next to it. What I want to show you anything for the chart is, if you for instance say I only want to see, I don't know, north and west, if you click OK, the chart will update automatically based on this. So I will say I only want to see those two regions, and say only again for Friday to Sunday, and this report or the chart will update according to what you selected here. You can also here, if you see this little funnel, which means the weekdays has been changed, you can for instance say no, actually I only wanted these see Saturdays. Click OK, the chart will update, but so will the data on the other side. So this pivot chart and pivot table is interlinked. So I'm just deleting the chart again. To get all your data back, you can click on data tab and clear, and it will clear all filters that I have on here. If you selected the data manually, and this is the data I have here, this is quite a long list, so if I go to the bottom, you'll see I've got more than 9,000, almost 10,000 items. If you add a field at the bottom here, so let's add a bit of data. I'm just going to copy this data here, put it in the data. So now our original list is slightly longer. It doesn't matter when you change data in Excel, the pivot table won't automatically update. You need to be in the pivot table, click on options and click on refresh. In this case nothing refreshed, because what happened here is the data I used to create this pivot didn't actually change. I added data. For in this case you'll see there's another option here that says change source data or change data source. If I click on that, you will see now it goes up to 9936, and if I scroll down you'll see that it needs to go to 9951. So you can reselect it, or you can just type it in there, click OK, and now the data is updated. So either you will see in another video, either use Excel tables or select the whole column if you know the data will grow consistently and you need to keep it updated. If your data is very large, so if you have hundreds of thousands or close to a million rows of data on quite a few columns, you will see that the whole pivot table actually slows down quite considerably. At the bottom here, when you see the field list, there's an option that says deferred layout update. If I click on this and now I move things around, if I say put a category in here and I put that, let's say I put the week of the day on top there, so I've changed some things, but if you've noticed, nothing has changed on the pivot table. So what this will help you is put things in the places where you want them, and once you're ready, then you click on update once and it will change everything the way you've selected it. So that is not something you'll use often, but it will help you to actually make progress if you have lots of data. Otherwise Excel will keep on calculating if you have larges of data and you move just one field. So this will help you get all the fields ready and then update once. There is much more you can do with pivot tables, but for introduction, what I have showed you should help you manage pivot tables in Excel.
Hi, this is Anton from the Data Developer channel. If you've liked this video, please consider giving it a thumbs up below and subscribing to the channel. And thank you for watching.